Hello, Ashley here to talk about pain and getting comfortable with it, because if there's one thing I know is that to move through your pain, you have to move through it. You have to go through it. You have to embrace it. There are so many, as I was getting ready for this live today, there were so many perspectives that were coming in about pain. Pain is something we all collectively experience. We don't get through life without having some sort of emotional pain or physical pain. So it's something we all can relate to on a very deep level. And the thing with pain is we don't have to let it run our lives. We don't have to stay in the struggle that pain often brings, because with pain, we often experience, just from a physiological standpoint, we experience a lot of fear. We don't feel, when we're experiencing pain and fear, we don't feel safe. And that causes us to not feel safe connecting to our body. So a lot of times when I work with clients and they talk about their pain, and I know this from experiencing it myself, is we just want it to go away. We want it to go away right now. And we don't always recognize when we are in pain and we just want it to go away, we want it to be over with, because we're in that mindset that we have a really hard time connecting with the message that it's actually bringing us. It is bringing us a message about our body. It is bringing us a message about our life. It is bringing an opportunity forward for us. Now, I know in my personal experience with pain, like I had been in a really traumatic car accident when I was 19. And the interesting thing, and this is why I want to share this with you, the interesting thing is I broke my back. I broke many other bones. I remember stating that my back hurt like immediately after it happened, but I don't actually remember how it felt. And I believe that's because I left my body. So when we are in that is like survival mode at its highest. And when we are in pain, we are more in our survival mode. We're not in thriving mode, because our body is just in that fight or flight. So I don't remember how it felt at all. Then fast forward to many years later, after healing on a physical level from that accident, I had another experience where I was in a car accident and experienced a lot of pain with that. And it was less traumatic, but because I had been in a car accident prior to that, when I was 19, like I shared, it brought up pain that my body was holding. So our body holds on to pain, whether, again, physical or emotional. In this case, it was emotional. And a lot of times our emotional pain can be a lot harder or a lot more challenging to deal with, because it comes kind of at times out of nowhere. You're like, what is this doing here? Nothing happened to me physically, but I have this pain, whether it's in the body, whether it's being expressed in the mind through your thoughts. Usually those two things go hand in hand. So that was, again, my opportunity to work through, PTSD and all the emotional pieces that went along with that first accident coming up in the second. So I share that to show you that, one, something physical doesn't have to happen to you for you to experience pain. And two, when something physical does happen to where you experience pain, either way, it is your responsibility to look at it. Anytime we try to flee from it, anytime we try to just make it go away, and I use this because in conversations with my clients, that's kind of the emotion that comes up. Like, I just want it to go away. I feel frantic and scattered and not like myself. And so it's this pattern of just wanting it to be gone yesterday. So it is an opportunity. So when you're experiencing pain, you're in survival mode, you typically aren't completely in the body or connected to the body, because you don't want to feel that pain. You don't want to experience in that pain. So there's part of you that's not completely connected to yourself. One way to work with that is you can work through it in many ways, but it's establishing safety. It's establishing safety in your body so that you can connect and work through that pain in a healthy way. So we all experience, so I would say like the survival mode and always trying to disconnect from the body and not really go in and take responsibility to move through it, through the pain, would be an unhealthy pattern and can keep you addicted to that pain cycle, whether you realize it or not. But then a healthy way of dealing with pain and getting comfortable with it, so to speak, is to look it in the eye. Just like anything in life, if we ignore it and we just want it to go away, then it's gonna stick around. So there are healthy patterns and unhealthy patterns of moving through your pain. So recognizing where you are, and whether or not you've been living in that survival mode for a long time is going to be super helpful for you. Hello, Louisa, good to see you. Yes, a quickie. I better speed it up. And then I was sharing that the only way to move through your pain, whether that's physical, emotional, and that could just be fear that's coming up, is that you have to look it straight in the eye. And actually, I find that it's very helpful to have a conversation with your pain, have a conversation with your fear. You can even like sit at one side of the table and be like, pain, this is how you're making me feel. And then you can even go over, this is called the Gestalt theory, you can go over to the other side, sit in the opposite chair, and have pain respond to what you just shared with it. And then to gain a higher perspective, you can stand between the two, yourself and the pain, and see what comes up within that conversation of taking a higher perspective on it, because you really have to look at it. If you try to ignore it and run from it, it's just gonna keep chasing you. And a lot of times what I see is people wanting to run from it or fix it or find somebody else that can help them fix it. And of course it's healthy to have guidance, but no one else can help you move through something that's your own. It's going to be unique to you. Yes, guidance. Yes, movement. Yes, mobility. Yes, strengthening. Yes, looking at it, but it's up to you. It is completely up to you, and it is completely up to you not to give up in the process, because also what I see with people is they'll do a certain amount of work, like one of all those things I just mentioned, or maybe a few of all those things, that cocktail. But if it keeps being presented to you, that's asking you to go deeper, look at it a little more, because I think people expect that if I dealt with it, it should go away and be gone. And so that's also another area in which you're not taking responsibility and not looking at something that it's presenting itself to be looked at, or presenting itself simply to be acknowledged. Sometimes it's as easy as that, and then it can go away, because a lot of times our fears come up or pain comes up just to move out of the body. And that's why you don't want to disconnect, even though that is easy to do. It's not the way that's going to help you long term. the other piece I wanted to bring up here, and I was kind of laughing that if I had called this like love yourself more, people probably wouldn't want to listen to it, versus, hey, get comfortable with your pain. People are like, oh, pain, yeah, I deal with that all the time. And I feel like, and this could be my own perspective on this, that if people hear like love yourself more, they're like, oh yeah, I gotta do that. But there is the piece of the puzzle of, and this is all, everything I've shared here is about honoring yourself and honoring your body more and honoring the messages that it has for you. And that takes self-love. That takes forgiveness a lot of times, especially with emotional pain. There is a level of forgiveness that needs to happen, usually of yourself, and then of course of other people. And that forgiveness is for you, not necessarily for them. You don't have to go have a conversation with them. So I think the biggest thing here is to look at your pain. That's a way to get comfortable with it. Ease into it. You don't have to go balls to the wall with it. And I know some people like to take that approach, and sometimes that can be so triggering to where you maybe don't get the benefit that you could if you eased into it and had that conversation like I shared. That is actually a very good tool that you can use to move through your pain. Let me see if there's anything else. I have some notes here. The other piece is that with pain, we can sometimes get to a point where we expect that's just gonna be the way our life is. Like, oh, I'm just gonna be in pain. And that's not actually, in my perspective, acceptance. That's just like saying, woe is me, I'm a victim of this, and I don't have any choice. And you always have a choice, no matter what situation that you're in. The reason that you may be choosing not to look at something or choosing to stay in survival mode is because you've gotten comfortable there. So it's like two sides of the same coin. You've gotten so comfortable with your pain that you don't think there's any opportunity outside of it, and there is. As soon as you take responsibility for it, because it is yours to take responsibility for. And when you take a heart-centered approach, when you look at things through the perspective of your heart versus your mind, then, and a great way to do that, if you find yourself in your mind all the time trying to figure your pain out or fix it or run from it, a good visual that you can do is actually take an elevator ride from your mind and drop down into your heart. And just as I shared earlier about having a conversation with your pain, you can, when you take the elevator down to your heart and the doors open from your heart, feel into, and I know again this may be an uncomfortable thing to do if you're experiencing pain, but actually feel into, hello Janique, good to see you, feel into what's there for you. You could even ask the question like, pain, what are you trying to teach me? What is my next best step? So I hope the tools that I shared today can help you shift your perspective on how to move through your pain, whether it's physical or emotional. And your pain is always going to bring up fears, and those fears are going to try to lock you in place. Those fears are going to keep you in your mind. Those fears can come up in thoughts of, is this good or bad or right or wrong, or running patterns of perfectionism. So realizing, taking that step back and being the observer of the situation is really going to help you. If there's anything else I can answer here, please drop it in the comments or send me a DM, because I know that this topic can be something that is sensitive, is very personal, and it's definitely something that comes up in my conversations with clients, whether we're working inside the Inner Athlete Advantage or the Ascended Athlete, because I tend to work with people who have had injuries and health challenges, or people who are very ambitious and driven and have a hard time slowing down. So those are all patterns that can keep us in survival mode, where that pain, where that fear comes up, or people who have a connection to a past version of themselves and haven't let it go. So that brings up an emotional level of pain. So if any of this resonates with you, if you have questions, please reach out. I also want to let you know that my 8-week mentorship program, the Inner Athlete Advantage, starts October 1st. It is an avenue for you to gain body confidence, so to really shift out of survival mode and really connect with your body. It is also an avenue to experience food freedom, if that's an area that you feel you struggle with or are in survival mode with, and then really work on that mindset mastery. So if you are interested in that, again, you can reach out. You can put IAA in the comments and I will share the details with you. All right. I hope that this topic brought you value, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye.